Hello, everyone, and welcome to Eat to Treat. We're a nonprofit, and our goal is to end health disparities. I'm Dr. Amaris Williams, and I have a PhD in nutrition. I'm an avid foodie, and I like to cook. As part of Eat to Treat, I do live cook along cooking demonstrations every first and third Saturday, and that's at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So today we're going to be making fried rice. So this is not a super healthy recipe because it is fried. It has fried in the name, but it's more healthy than probably any fried rice you'll ever get at a restaurant. We're gonna load it with vegetables, and it's gonna be made with brown rice, and that's gonna give us an extra boost in in nutrients. And we're also going to use olive oil, which is a heart healthy oil, to fry the rice. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing is we're going to crack some eggs. I put 2 eggs in the recipe, but you can do however many you want. This is a very flexible recipe. You just do it the way you like to do it. You don't like peas, for example, switch it out for I don't know, Brussels sprouts or something. Chopped up Brussels sprouts. This is very flexible. You do the recipe how you want to do it. But please don't switch the brown rice for white rice, and don't omit all the vegetables, because then you've negated all the health benefits of the recipe. So I'm just gonna beat my eggs briefly just to scramble them. That's good. And then turn on my heat and add about a tablespoon of olive oil to the pan. So I'm at medium heat, 5 out of 10, and I'm just gonna let that get steaming hot. Now, if you make scrambled eggs and your eggs are sticking to the pan, one thing that's going on is your pan isn't hot enough. So we want a super hot pan. We want the oil to almost be smoking, but not quite smoking. There's some evidence that if the oil starts smoking, like compounds in the oil are breaking down, and what they're breaking down into can be are carcinogenic, which is basically means they can be cancer causing. Now, of course, that depends on the dosage and how frequently you eat it and all that kind of stuff. So just like having your oil smoke every, twice a month or something like that, it's probably not going to kill you, but um, it's not something you want to make a habit out of. It's causing your oil to smoke. But we just want a good heat on our pan so that my eggs don't stick, because then that'll slow down the whole recipe. Because then I have to clean the pan before I move on to the onions and everything else. But I think that we're probably hot enough. Maybe not. I don't want to rush it. I want to get it good and hot. All right, I'm gonna put the eggs in there. Let's see what happens. When you put the eggs in there, it should be a very vivid, what's that called? Sizzling sound. So let's see. Probably not hot enough. All right. When I tested this recipe, I did it on my stove. So okay. All right, I'm gonna turn this up a little bit. I'm at a 7 out of 10 now. Five's just not cutting it. Okay, it's cooked on the bottom, so now I'm going to scramble the eggs a little bit. Just stir them around in the oil. then once these are cooked, I'm going to put them back in the bowl that I scrambled the eggs in originally. And yes, there's raw egg in that bowl. And if we were going to be eating these eggs from the bowl, I wouldn't recommend it. But we're going to put these eggs back in over the fire. Oops. At the end of the cooking, after we add the rice, we're going to add these eggs back to the heat. So they're going to have the chance to cook a little bit more. All right. Now, set your eggs to the side. And next up, let's cut up some onion. Now, my onion is already peeled, and so I'm going to give you some time to peel your onion. But while I do that, let's talk about nutrition. I've already given you a few spoilers. So first off, this recipe does have a decent amount of fat in it. 10 grams of fat is not something to sneeze at. But the good news is, because we're using olive oil, it's an unsaturated fat. It's monounsaturated, polyunsaturated, and that's better for you than if we were using, say, ghee or butter or lard or anything like that. And definitely a healthier oil than whatever they use at restaurants. Hopefully it's peanut oil, but a lot of times it's just generic vegetable oil or a vegetable and like a partially hydrogenated oil that's not very good for you. The cholesterol comes from the eggs, so if you're worried about cholesterol, omit the eggs. Sodium comes from the soy sauce. Even though we're using low sodium soy sauce, it still has a decent amount of sodium in it. So that's why we're only using 2 tablespoons for our whole meal. And finally, the total carbohydrates is high. It's a rice dish, yes. But if you look under there where it says dietary fiber, we've got almost 7 grams of fiber, which is a pretty goodly portion of fiber. And that kind of mitigates the effect of the carbohydrates on the blood sugar if you're watching your blood sugar. And the sugars, those are probably coming from the peas that are nice and sweet, and maybe the carrots. So that's enough nutrition. Let's get back to the cooking. So now that the onion is peeled, I'm just gonna cut mine in half from root end to stem end. So I've cut it through the root and through the stem. And now I'm just going to slice it. I'm not going to do anything fancy here. I'm just going to have long strings of onion in my fried rice, which is kind of how it's done in restaurants. You end up with kind of strings of onion in your fried rice. And so that's what we're going to have. And then as soon as we're done cutting up this onion, we're going to turn the heat back on, put another tablespoon of oil in the pan, and then put the onions in there. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Turn your heat back on. I'm going to turn mine on to 6 out of 10, and put a tablespoon of oil in. And put the onions in there. And it's already sizzling because the pan is a little bit hot from when we cooked the eggs. Okay, next thing on the menu is bell pepper. So, I've cut a bell pepper a lot of times on this channel. What we want to do is cut around the edges of the bell pepper. The bell pepper is a box with seeds in it. So we're going to cut the sides off the box and leave the middle with the seeds in it. We're going to leave that intact. So just slicing down the edges, down the sides of the bell pepper. And you can see none of my slices have seeds in it, and all the seeds are here in the middle. So that goes in the trash. All right, it. Don't forget to stir your onion on occasion. And then the bell pepper, I'm just going to slice that the same way I did the onions. And then I'm going to throw them in the pan as soon as they're cut. Now, I'm not a huge fan of bell pepper. I like it when it's cooked all the way through, which is why I'm putting it in early. I want it completely cooked. If you like the flavor of bell pepper, you can have bigger pieces, one, and then two, you can put it in later in the cooking process so that the flavor of the bell pepper isn't as, is more prominent. All right, and then once we do the bell pepper, we're going to do the carrots. And the carrots, you can dice them and make little cute little squares of carrots like you get in the frozen section. But I'm going to just cut round circles of carrots and throw them in the pan. Okay. So, you don't have to peel your carrots if you don't want to. I'm going to give you time to peel yours if you do want to by peeling mine. I've got 5 carrots here because some of my carrots are kind of small. So I decided to just do 5 instead of 4. But the recipe calls for 4 large carrots. So try to get that if you can. This is what I would consider a large carrot. So you can see in relation to my hand. This is like a medium-sized carrot. All right. They used to say growing up, carrots are good for your eyes. And that's because no one ever told me why. Like, you would ask, as a kid, you ask the why all the time. But the reason why they say carrots are good for your eyes because they have a lot of vitamin A, or what's called provitamin A, which means it's a form of vitamin A that needs a little bit of processing before it is active. But vitamin A is good for your retina in your eye, and the reason why is because if you are vitamin A deficient, which is rare in the Western civilization, but in like low-income countries, it's more common. If you're vitamin A deficient, you can go blind. So that's why they say carrots are good for your eyes. All right, so all my carrots are peeled. I'm going to stir my aromatic vegetables here. Okay, and then, like I said, just round pieces of carrot. And here's where a sharp knife comes in very handy. If you're trying to do this with a dull knife, you're going to have to use way more force to get through the carrot than if you had a sharp knife. You're going to be pushing really hard. And that increases the chances that your knife is going to slip. And it could end up slipping and cutting something you don't want to cut, like a finger. Or less dramatic, just make your carrots a different size than what you wanted. So that's why it's critical to keep your fingers bent under and out of the way. So what I mean by bent under is your fingers are kind of like this, holding the carrot, And the knife is gliding against your knuckles like this. For the skinny part of the carrot, I do that, but then, you know, for the bigger parts, keep my fingers bent under and glide the knife against my knuckles. All right. Just a few more carrots. And the carrots are going in relatively late in the cooking process because when I cook this, I like a little bite to my carrots. I want to know that I'm eating a carrot. I don't want it to be mushy and kind of blend in with the rest of the rice. That's what I want the bell pepper to do. I want the bell pepper to blend in with the rest of the rice. But the carrot, I want to know that it's a carrot. But if you don't like carrots, then one, you can omit them and put something else in, or just or put them in earlier and cook them longer before you put the rice in. All right. So carrots are done. As you can see, we got a goodly pile of vegetables going here. And that's what we want. Next up is the aromatics. So we're going to do ginger, garlic, and a hot pepper. Hot pepper of your choice at choosing. I'm going to use a habanero, but I'm probably going to use half a habanero because this is a pretty big habanero. Quite large. And so I'm just going to cut it in half. And I'll keep one half later, to use later. And in this one, I'm going to mince very finely. So how I'm going to do that is first slice it. Very thin slices. And then, once I've got it sliced, I'm going to use the curve of my knife to rock the knife like this through the habanero. So it looks like this. I'm keeping my hands on top of the knife and just rocking the knife through the habanero. Now, if you wear contacts, probably should have said this at the beginning, but if you wear contacts or you frequently touch your eyes, you might want to wear gloves if you're handling a habanero. Because even after you wash your hands with soap and water and do the 20 seconds the Dr. Fauci recommends and all that kind of stuff, sing happy birthday twice, all that, there's still going to be some habanero, some capsaicin is the spicy compound. There's still going to be some on your fingertips. So just be mindful of that. Capsaicin is oil soluble. So you have something that gets oil off, might do you well. So you can see that I've got it pretty small, cut up pretty small. And I'm just going to dump that in the pan. And then the garlic, I put on there to use minced garlic in a jar. So that's what I'm using so that we don't have to cut up garlic. And about a tablespoon and a half. I'm doing 2 forkfuls. And have a tablespoon of ginger paste. That's what I'm using. Okay, and let's give that a good stir. Oh, it smells so good. I love the smell of ginger cooking. Now, I did put on the recipe that you can add more vegetables to this if you want. For example, you can add wilted greens. I put wilted spinach in mine when I test drove this recipe. And I think it came out great. I used frozen spinach, but you can also use fresh. What I did though was I cooked the spinach down, so cooked all the liquid out of the spinach in a separate pan, and then added it to the rice at the end. I would not recommend trying to cook all the liquid out of the spinach in the same pan that you're trying to cook your rice in, because it's just gonna it's gonna overcook some of the vegetables, and it's gonna steam everything when you're trying to fry everything. So it'll change the texture of what you're doing here. Okay, so we've stirred our aromatics for a minute. Now it's time to add the rice. Let me just make sure I haven't forgotten anything. No, we're good. All right, so this is brown rice that I've cooked. I cooked it this morning at about 4 a.m. when I woke up. And it's been in the fridge since then. And so, your mileage may vary, but I'm going to have to add a little bit more oil to my pan. So I'm just going to add another tablespoon of oil. And we're going to stir this in. And I probably should have used a slightly larger pan. All right, so almost done. And notice that I'm rubbing my eyes, but I'm rubbing it with my forearm, not my hands, because I've got habanero on my hands, like I said before. Next thing we're going to add is the frozen peas. And it looks like I've got more than a cup here, and that's because I've been snacking on them. I've been eating them, so I put extra in my sieve here. But add your peas. Okay, I don't know why my eyes are burning. And add your eggs. Okay. And now it's starting to look like fried rice, except with more veggies. Last ingredient, soy sauce. And this is going to be all the flavor that we need. So no need to add salt or pepper or anything like that to it. It's looking good. All right. 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. When I tested this recipe before, I put a quarter cup of soy sauce in there, and that was way too much. So we're gonna do 2 tablespoons, and we're gonna see how that goes. All right, 2 tablespoons in. Probably could use 1 tablespoon, but it'll probably be good. All right, I'm gonna turn this off. And that's it. Fried rice in the bag. All right. Change the angle. Now, some of you may be asking, what about the protein? Well, one, we have eggs in there. But if you want to make this chicken fried rice, I'm gonna make it easy for you. This is a breast from a rotisserie chicken. I didn't cook this chicken. All I'm gonna do is cut the breast off the rotisserie chicken. I didn't bring the whole chicken out because I'd already eaten the legs off of it, and it seemed weird to bring out, half-eaten chicken. So I just cut the breast off, and as you can see, I'm just gonna chop it up roughly, and then throw that in the pan. Now, this is gonna change the nutrition. It's gonna increase the protein, but also increase the fat, especially the saturated fat. So if you're serving this as a side dish and you're gonna have a protein with the fried rice, then there's no need to put chicken in the fried rice. But you can sprinkle some chicken on top and let that get warm and call it a day. So let me show you what we've done here. There's your chicken fried rice. And it looks spectacular. All right, that's it for today. I'm going to change the angle. All right, so let's do a quick outro so that I can eat. I don't know if you made this. You probably want to eat too. So I do cooking demos every first and third Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern. And you can find me right here on YouTube, free for everyone, as part of the Eat to Treat nonprofit. And hit the subscribe bell and the subscribe button and the bell icon to be reminded of the next demonstration. And I'll see you next time. Bye.